Welcome to Breaking Ties, Is Divorce the Answer? This is your go-to source for practical advice and support when considering if a divorce is the right answer for you. Join us each weekday for a quick chat where we'll uncover a variety of topics such as child custody, property division, and self-care. Together, we'll explore the emotional, financial, and legal aspects of divorce and help you find the best path forward for you and your family. Here is your host and Certified Divorce Financial Analyst professional, Mike Fulkerson.
Hello and welcome to the Breaking Ties interview series where we talk with a professional who assists those getting through and moving on from the divorce process. And really, we're just looking to answer some of those common questions you might have. Today, we're actually going to focus this week's episode on after divorce a lot of times and dating. So I'm your host, Mike Fulkerson, financial advisor and certified divorce financial analyst professional. And with me today is Patti Warsaski. And Patti is a dating coach and the owner of A-Game Dating Coaching for Men and Women. This is going to be a fun week, I think. I think we're going to get a lot of great information. Welcome to the podcast, Patti.
Hey, Mike. Thanks for having me on here.
So for our listeners, just a little background. I've known Patti for a long time, and Patti was my dating coach after I got divorced. And I am still with my girlfriend, and we're having a great time as we both moved on from a divorce. So I can't say enough about Patti and your service, and I appreciate you, Patti.
Thank you. You were very fun to work with.
So when we look at some of these post-divorce dating things, I know I've gotten the questions, and I know a lot of people have questions on, how do I know if I'm really just ready to start dating again after the divorce process? And so what do you got for us?
So that's one of those things that there's no one size fits all answer to. Everybody processes their divorce so differently. Some people have even compared it to a death, where they'll say, I didn't know it was coming, like an unexpected death. And so it takes them a little more time to digest what's happened, and they kind of have to get through like a mourning process. Other people who may have initiated the divorce are clearly very happy to move on. They just want to go on with it. But I think one of the worst things that anybody can do is feel peer pressure to date too soon. Friends and loved ones are so well-meaning, and they want to get you back out there because they want to see you happy, but it's not always the right timing. So it really goes down to, listen to your gut on it. If you really feel like you're just not there yet, whether you need that time to process or mourn, if you will, or just time to organize your life again. A lot of times people come out of divorce, they're no longer living in the same house. You, of all people, know their finances are greatly affected. So they need time to regroup. So the right time to date after divorce is when it feels like the right time. And the best way to put off kind of those well-meaning friends and family is to just let them know that you are really trying to just become your best self before you get back out there again. And I think everyone kind of accepts that answer. They understand that. So they back off a little bit.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, there isn't really a timetable, and you shouldn't be pushed into a timetable because dating too soon can actually have other consequences.
Or even pushing yourself into a timetable, thinking that I want to move on from the past, so I'm going to start my future. Because it's just kind of a recipe for disaster. You'll just be pairing up with the wrong people.
Yeah, exactly. So as we're looking to, kind of rebuild ourselves after the divorce process and becoming single again, what are some tips for building self-confidence, before you put yourself back out there, and get it back into the dating scene?
Oh, I think one of the greatest things that you can do to build self-confidence is to do a self-evaluation. And I know that might sound initially like that's really harsh because, like for women, we look in the mirror and we say, oh, too many pounds here, or I don't like this. But not a self-evaluation in a negative way, a self-evaluation in a really, really positive way. Look at yourself and kind of think about what you bring to the table. Know what you bring to the table. I think if you don't go into it knowing what you have to offer, you won't have that confidence to put that out there, whether it be in an online bio or in a chat or in an in-person meeting. Confidence is sexy, right? Everybody says that. It's been said forever and ever. So in order to get yourself to that point where you're showing an appeal to another person, you've got to be comfortable in your own skin. And I always have said, and I'm sure I said it to you as well, you cannot be half of something great if you are not whole with yourself. So it's important to just do that self-evaluation. Think about the things that make you happiest. Think about the things you like about yourself. Think about the things that you know that another person would look at you and appreciate, whether it's you're a kind person or a person that doesn't like conflict and drama, or a person that is a giving person. One of the things I can do and recommend, and I'm sure everybody's heard of the book, The 5 Love Languages, I would say take a minute and read that book, because a lot of times when we've been in long-term relationships or marriages, we've settled in over the years, maybe got married when we were in our late teens or 20s, and of course you evolve with age, but the last time you really thought about who you were to another person was maybe when you were 20 or 25. Mm-hmm. So look at who you are today. Look at how much you've grown today. Look at the things that you now can offer another person through life experiences, through what you see that you want to give into a relationship because it's what you want back from a relationship. So self-evaluate. And when you see that you have more positives than negatives, we all beat ourselves up. But when you realize you have more positives than negatives, that pros list is far longer than that cons list. Live by that pros list. Know yourself by that pros list. Identify yourself by that pros list. And let other people pick up that vibe off of you. Pick up that really like, hey, I know I'm this, that, or the other.
All right. Well, that is great stuff there, Patti. I resonate a lot with that. I think that piece in there where you were talking about how you got to be a whole for yourself in order to be a half with somebody else. And some of that self-confidence just comes from being independent and working through your processes as a newly single person and getting comfortable with who you are again. So I think that was fantastic information. So this concludes our first day of the interview. You're going to want to join us tomorrow as we continue our discussion on dating and divorce. Patti and I would like to thank you for joining us today on the Breaking Ties interview series. Should you have any questions for Patti, you can find her contact information in the description. I'm going to have it there. So reach out to her. She's always happy to help. Remember, divorce is not the end of your story. It is the start of your next great chapter. And we will see you tomorrow. Take care. Hello, and welcome back for day 2 of the Breaking Ties interview series, where we talk with professionals who assist those getting through the divorce process. And this week, we're actually looking post-divorce for most of us as far as moving on through the dating process. And with this, we're going to go over some of the common questions you have all week. So with me today is Patti Warsaski. And Patti is a dating coach and the owner of A-Game Dating Coaching for Men and Women. And I tell you, yesterday we had some great, information. So if you're joining us for the first time today, I highly recommend you go and listen to yesterday's episode as well, because Patti shared some gems. Welcome back to the podcast, Patti. How are you?
I'm great. This is wonderful. I'm glad to be back doing this.
Excellent. And for our listeners who didn't join us yesterday, Patti was actually my dating coach after I got divorced. And I've been with Amy, my girlfriend, for quite a while now. And a lot of that is due to the success that I had listening to Patti and having her help me.
You were a wonderful listener, definitely. You took everything to heart.
Yeah. Well, it was that transformation process. And we talked a little about that yesterday. So, getting that self-confidence back up and stuff.
Yep,
so
yep.
Yeah. So it was fantastic. So today we're going to move on in that kind of after divorce dating process. And this question I'm sure comes up a lot when you talk with clients. And that is, how do I navigate the dating apps and online dating profiles and scene, after I'm divorced?
Well, like I said yesterday about the dating after divorce and how it's not a one-size-fits-all process, it's the same thing with dating apps. It really is. Um, you can have a million people that have success on one platform, and then you can try it and it just doesn't work for you. It just, you don't connect with it. You don't get the results you want. So I would say research all the different platforms out there, see what works for you. Don't spread yourself too thin. I know a lot of people will be signed up to 5 different dating apps. I don't think that's necessary, because what you're doing then is you're just pairing up with the people that are also signed up to 5 different dating apps. And we're always, in dating, we're looking for quality over quantity. It's not about how many dates you go on. I know a lot of people think like, oh, the law of averages. I will go on a million dates and something's going to stick. I think when we talk about our dating needs and what we're looking for out of dating, whether it be a long-term commitment or just companionship or, whatever it may be, I think we still really have to have the insight on what we genuinely want. And if not, you kind of end up settling. And then the settling might feel okay in the beginning because you've got companionship, somebody to go out with, somebody interesting and new to meet and get to know. But over time, that kind of wears thin. So when you're looking for those dating apps, really use the free trials to go through the platform, see if the platform works for you. Also, talk to friends. You can ask who's had success. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's the right one for you, but people are very wonderful when it comes to sharing stories and the pros and the cons. Someone will tell you, well, if you use this app, you will have to answer 1,000 questions. Or if you use this app, you need to do this or that, or it's only the women choosing, or, you've got to just find what fits for you. Try a couple, do the free trials. If it doesn't work for you, move on to another one. There are obviously the big ones that everybody knows, people have success with. So if you want to start there and then kind of funnel down to what's more personalized for you, that's why dating apps like marryafarmer.com exist, because people look for different things. If you're an adventure seeker, there's dating apps for people that seek that, or a traveler or something. Now, in a more broad sense, I will say one of the key things on these dating apps, which is a make it or break it, is your profile. I cannot say it enough. A profile should not be filled with me, I. It's wonderful to express things on the profile that are things that you like in your life or interesting things about your life, but leave room for someone else to see how they can fit into your life. So, for example, if you're a traveler, say something like, I love to travel, can't wait to find the right person to go on my next great trip with, or something. So then someone can envision a place for themselves. But if you paint this picture that I've got this great life, that's wonderful, and I hope everybody does. But the person reading it is going to be, okay, well, where do I fit into that? This person has talked about their kids and their family and their job and their hobbies. Where's there time for me? So just leave a little bit of room in there, and don't hesitate to say what you don't want. If you are someone that doesn't want to be with a smoker, make it very clear. Or someone that doesn't want to be with someone that lives more than a certain distance away. If you don't want to meet somebody that lives 200 miles away, make sure that you're saying, I'm looking to meet someone in the Chicagoland area or whatever your area is. So the dating apps will work for you if you put a little work on the front end by being selective about, what you put into your bio, and do your homework on what's a good fit. But with anything else, offer a little patience, because a lot of times, Mike, you were very, very lucky. Mike had a great profile, and I think, what was it? Was it 24 hours you met Amy? Something like that?
Right. Yeah, exactly. We matched, picked each other kind of thing, and then went on a first date the following weekend, and
the
the
rest
rest
is
has been history.
Yeah. So, and that can happen. Those things are wonderful. Also, when you're on these dating apps, try and engage with people a little bit more. Try and get to that chat and let that chat live on a little bit so you can get to know people. I know we are as a society, I know I am for sure, instant gratification person. So a lot of people are like, they talk with somebody for a minute and then they set up a date. But then oftentimes the date fizzles and doesn't end well because they really didn't know enough about that person before they went out. And then they meet that person and they think, oh, I don't want that in person, or I don't like that in a person, or So just a little recon work through that app. Use that to your favor. And the last thing I'm going to say, so we can move on, is that when you are making the connection and you're chatting and you're moving on, using the phone or Zoom is a wonderful thing too. Something where you can kind of put the name with the face, get a feel for the energy or the vibe or whatever it is that you're looking for that matches up with yours. That's important. So take advantage of this technology that we have now that's really pretty terrific with keeping safety in mind too. I know a lot of people just are concerned about safety too. So kind of pre-screen a little bit too when you talk to people.
Yeah, you can never be too safe, especially if you're doing the online kind of things. So, when we get to people who are looking for, say, something not online, where else would, a single individual look or check or go to in order to, find a date?
Well, I am just being that I am not, 21 years old, and I have lived in a world, and like most of us have lived in a world before technology. I mean, if you think about it, most of us, when we got married, we either asked or were asked out on a date. We went to someone's house to pick them up, or we were at home and got picked up. We got into someone's car, we went out. There was no texting, there was no technology. It was really old school. So meeting in person was your only option, unless you had a blind date through a friend or something like that, and it was still in person. So I think right now, if you're not someone that, if it's just never going to be a matchup for you online, which is okay, involve yourself in things that you like, because then you will be around people who like things that you like. I'm a big proponent of meetup.com. I think Meetup is a great platform for going out and being you and doing what you like. And it doesn't necessarily have to be for the purpose of going to meet someone. You can go there because you enjoy fishing, or you have you love biking or something, and you go to a group, and you're obviously going to meet like-minded people, and therein you could meet a mate. There are also different groups that are specifically for dating that you can go, and it's just single people going to events. Everybody's on the same page there. That's a great in-person interaction. There's also be open to, if the timing is right, if a friend says to you, hey, I have this friend, or I know this person, or I have a neighbor, I think you guys might hit it off. Be open to that. If you feel like you don't want the pressure of the old traditional blind date, see if there's going to be an event where that other person is going to be at. Maybe your neighbor or friend or family members throwing a party, and then you can get to know each other that way too. And let me tell you, smile wherever you go. Have a smile, because you don't know, there is really, I don't know if there's statistical information on it, but there is a lot of word on the street that a lot of people meet at the grocery store or other places, standing in line at the post office. You just never know who you're going to encounter, ever. So be that person with a smile on your face. It's good for you. It's just a good way to be. But when someone else sees that you're a person that looks like a happy person, they gravitate towards that. So you just might be able to attract somebody when you least expect it, just by being a person that seems like you're in a good place and happy and just showing that you're approachable.
Yeah, boy, that's really good information, because not everybody is comfortable with the technology online and how to use a dating app and stuff. And so some people just prefer the old fashioned face-to-face handshake, hug kind of thing. And, you just see where the night plays out.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Well, this concludes our second of 5 days of the interview with Patti. So please join us tomorrow as we continue our discussion on dating and divorce. Each day's got new questions. So come on back and join us again. Patti and I would like to thank you for joining us today on Breaking Ties, the interview series. Should you have any questions for Patti, I'm going to put her information over in the description so you can reach out. Patti's always happy to help. And keep in mind, divorce is not the end of your story. It is the start of your next great chapter. And with that, we will see you all tomorrow. Hi, and welcome back to day 3 of the Breaking Ties interview series, where we're talking with professionals this week who assist those in getting through the divorce process. This week's a little different, where we're looking post-divorce. We're looking at moving on and reestablishing ourselves on the dating scene. I'm your host, Mike Fulkerson, financial advisor and certified divorce financial analyst professional. And with me today is Patti Warsaski. And Patti is a dating coach and the owner of A Game Dating Coaching for Men and Women. And I tell you, we've been getting great information all week from Patti. So if you are just joining us today for the first time, you got to go back and check out the first 2 episodes, because we had some great information being passed along by Patti that I think you'll really enjoy. Welcome to day 3, Patti. How are we feeling?
Great, feeling really great. It's a wonderful series you're doing.
Yeah, well, it's only beautiful because of the information you're sharing with our listeners.
I appreciate that.
I tell you, it is really good stuff and really helps out a lot of people. And, as we progress through the whole dating scene here, I think a lot of people, because we got this swipe society and you're just meeting somebody somewhere, I think it's kind of interesting to chat a little bit today about what are some fun and safe date ideas when you actually are going out on a date.
I think a lot of that seed is planted with how long you talk to and how involved of a conversation you have with who you're going out with. I'm a big advocate and proponent of safety, always, not only for women, for men too. So I think where your comfort zone takes you is where you should go. If your comfort zone takes you to meeting up just at a coffee place and driving your own vehicle and having the ability to leave and paying for your own beverage, that's where you should go. If you feel you've spoken to this person enough, the other person, and you've had enough of an interaction, or maybe had the opportunity to have some Zoom or video calls, and you feel more comfortable, or if it's someone that you may know a little better, you might want to delve into something a little bit more personal, like going into a dinner situation where you're going to be with somebody for a couple of hours. But I would say, as far as just ideas, I think if the weather allows, I think a walk is a wonderful thing for a first date. I think it just gives you the opportunity to just kind of be free and easy. Everybody's kind of relaxed on a walk. I think a group activity is great for safety. Yesterday I mentioned meetup.com. They do a lot of activities. If you suggest going to an activity together, a lot of times there's live music, which is wonderful for a date. You can do something where you're among other people and you feel safe and you feel comfortable and there's something to talk about. That's the other thing, is try and do something where there's something to talk about. Whether it be you go to a movie and you go have coffee or something after, you've got something to talk about. Or go to a common place that you both like, maybe a museum, something to talk about, something to keep the conversation going. It's not to say that you would be non-compatible if getting a conversation going is a little bit more difficult. Sometimes people just need time to come out of their shells. If you're really kind of just out of the gate of a divorce, nervous. People are nervous. So you might need that time. If you are fall into the chatty patty category and you have no problem talking to anybody and you can do just about anything, but your safety still should be in there, because if you don't feel safe, you're not going to feel comfortable. If you don't feel comfortable, you won't let yourself relax enough to enjoy and interact. And then what could have been an otherwise nice date turns into just a person just kind of getting in their own head. So I think group activities, just to recap, group activities are wonderful. Anything outdoors is great. If you're not an outdoors person, do something that's indoors, but maybe on a smaller scale. Don't commit to too many hours right up front.
Right. Yeah, those are fantastic. And yeah, safety is always a number one concern, in today's dating scene. Along some of those similar lines, what are some red flags to watch out for, when you're dating, whether it's through conversation or just through chatting or something like that, kind of thing? What are your thoughts?
I'm sorry, one of the biggest things, red flag that I let people know about is when someone is just so adamant and just, let's get together now. Why don't we meet today? Why don't we, that's a red flag to me. Again, also being an instant gratification person, yeah, that all sounds great. Like, oh, it'd be cool. But proceed with caution. I mean, if you're a parent, think about what you would tell your children in this same situation. Would you tell them, oh, no, just meet somebody on the internet and then, get out there a few hours later and meet up with them somewhere, or go to their house or something? No, we would never give this advice to our children. So we should keep these kind of things also in mind for ourselves, for safety. So that's a red flag to me. If someone is too eager, not that necessarily bodily harm will come to you, but my question then becomes is, why are you so eager? Why is the other person so eager? Is it because they're just not somebody that's on the same page with you and they're just kind of looking for like a quick interaction and move it on? Or is it someone that just doesn't have enough respect for you to get to know you as a person, to want to know more about you before they make a decision to get together? I just think that it's not a really thought through process when someone is too eager to get together with you. I feel like there's an ulterior motive, and there are scammers out there. We know it. I hope no one listening to this has fallen victim to that. But there are people that they may think about something about you or perceive something about you that they think is advantageous for them to meet you right away. And I also think another red flag is when someone wants to know a lot about things that are irrelevant. What kind of car do you drive? Well, where do you live? Do you live in a big house? What do you do for a living? Obviously, you want to share things on a minimal scale like that. What do you do for a living? I'm in sales. If you want to share more than that, if you want to give more information than that, or I'm an attorney or whatever it is, just proceed with caution on those things, at least in those first few interactions, because it's red flags when people want to know too much about you too soon, that don't have to do with who you are and your personality. They have more to do with like the material things in your life. So if someone starts talking to you about, when you were growing up, did you remember ever going to this place or doing that? Or something along those lines, then yeah, now they want to know about you. If they're asking you, what kind of car you drive, they don't want to know about you. That's irrelevant to who you are. They start asking you if you remembered watching a show when you were a kid, or, something about your upbringing or something. That's you. Just try and understand the difference between someone wanting to know about your life and your possessions and someone wanting to know about you personally and the way you think and the way you tick.
Yeah, no, that's a great distinction right there. I mean, I never really thought about it that way as far as, who you know versus materialistic things. So I think that's a really good thing to work out. Now, we get to the date, let's say first date, kind of thing, or even just any date. Some do's and don'ts to talk about when you're out on a date.
Well, my first don't, I'm going to start with that. So if anybody who's ever been coached by me or attends my Zoom sessions knows that I am very, very, I stand very strongly on the position is when you're going on your first date, don't bring your exes along. And I mean that figuratively, not literally. One of the things that people have a tendency to do is bring up their exes, ex-spouses, ex-relationships. And I get that it's a common ground and you can commiserate and, oh, my ex did this too and my ex did that. But you're not building a foundation for the two of you to establish your own relationship. What you're doing is you're bonding over your bad ex experiences. So I just remind people it's not a double date. When you go out, there should only be two people on the date. And so if you start talking about the ex, at the end of the night, what does the other person now know about you? They know about a bad relationship history, and they know about your ex. So if I were to say to them, well, what did you learn about her on the date? Well, she had a terrible ex-husband, and he did this, and he did that. Not enough to go by to know if you want to have a second date. So I'm very, very big on that. Not saying it's not okay to bring up, oh, I was married for this many years and we got divorced because of this, if you want to share that information. But just kind of limit it. limited, so it doesn't become a back and forth bashing of the exes, and then the evening is over. And how do you really know if you want to see that person again? How do you know anything about them? Because now all you've done is had a therapy session. So big one there. Just remember, those things come out in time. If you guys get along great on the first date, those things are going to come out in time. Of course, you're going to share things like that, but let the first date really be about the two of you.
Nice.
As far as any do's, I would say a big do is walk out your door to go to that date with absolutely the best expectations. Do not go with the worst expectations. Like, oh, I really didn't want to go to this. I'm too tired. I don't know if I really like this person enough. I don't like that restaurant. I don't. Just going into it with that, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. There, you're going to just have not a good attitude, and it's going to be picked up on. Go in there and say, hey, I'm bringing the best I've got. Let me see if the other person's bringing the best they've got. And somewhere in there, we might have a really fun night together or a fun date, whatever you're doing together. But don't get inside your own head. Do give yourself the confidence. Compliment yourself as you're looking at yourself in the mirror, getting ready to walk out the door. Compliment yourself on knowing that you are really excited, and it shows. Just build yourself up, because you deserve that whether you're going on a date or not. Always be comfortable in your own skin. So do try to remind yourself that this other person saw something in you and they liked it enough to create this dating situation with you. So play off of that. Say, hey, this person found me funny or attractive or interesting, because you are. So take that with you.
Yeah, no, those are two really good ones right there on the do and the don't, and going out on the date and stuff. So, man, I think that was really great stuff.
I get excited, like I get passionate about the don'ts and the do's. So.
Right, that's it. So, hey, this actually does conclude our third day. We've made it halfway, Patti. Woohoo! So I want to let our listeners know that we're going to be back tomorrow with another episode, and that episode is going to have new questions and new thoughts and new ideas as we continue our discussion on dating and divorce. Patti and I would like to take a second to thank you for joining us today on the Breaking Ties interview series. And if you have any questions for Patti, I'm going to have her information over in the description, ways to contact her via phone, via email, and you can chat with her directly and ask questions of her. Divorce is not the end of your story. As Patti and I know, it is the start of your next great chapter. And with that, take care, and we will see you tomorrow. Hello, and welcome back to day 4 of the Breaking Ties interview series, where we talk with a professional who assists those going through the divorce process, and more specifically this week, moving on after the divorce process. So we're looking at, answering those common questions that you're likely to have with a professional and get some great information out to you. I'm your host, Mike Fulkerson, financial advisor and certified divorce financial analyst professional. And with me today is Patti Warsaski. And Patti is a dating coach and the owner of A Game Dating Coaching for men and women. So we've already got some great information. So if this is your first time this week listening with us, I encourage you to go back to the previous episodes. What are we on? 4 of 5. So go back to number 1. Each episode is going to have a different set of questions that Patti is answering. And let me tell you, you're going to find the information to be fantastic. Welcome back to the podcast, Patti. How are you?
I'm great, Mike. This is just such a wonderful experience. Thank you.
Good. Well, I know our listeners are just soaking up the information, because what you're sharing, it's just real stuff. And I think that, you don't get that. It's kind of refreshing in this day and age.
Yeah, we just want to be practical and like you said, real and practical and helpful, because there is a moving on process, as you know, I enjoy being part of that process for people. It's really great to be a part of their evolution. I feel really honored to be able to share that and to see that and to help them through that.
Yeah, and if this is your first time listening, I've mentioned it on previous episodes. Patti was my dating coach, and my girlfriend Amy and I have been going and dating for a long time, and moved on after each of our divorces. And I couldn't have really done it without Patti. So I appreciate that, Patti.
You're very welcome.
All right. So we've been kind of walking through the dating cycle and process this week. And so kind of the next common questions that pop up in this episode, we're going to start with, what kind of signs can you get that another date should be on the horizon? Or, maybe you got to consider some things and figure out if it's another time for another good date.
Yeah, that's a really fantastic question, because a lot of times people automatically assume, well, if I had a good time on the first date, I should go on a second date. And that's a big component of it. But there's also a little bit more to take into consideration. A good time is a good time. But throughout that first date, did you look at that person in a way where you saw them as somebody you want to explore dating with? Or did you just have a really good time because this is a person you could have as a really good friend too? Assess that. And if your gut tells you that they possess qualities that you have been looking for, certainly don't shut it down. Pursue the second date. We all are, first of all, just in general as people, we're all a work in progress. We all evolve. And so just in that same way, so are relationships. So the first date could be fun and the second date may not be as much fun, but it doesn't mean don't have a third date. It just means kind of look at what you're learning about this person and does it align with the things that you are looking for yourself. If you have a gut feeling that tells you like, no way, don't do it. Don't be uncomfortable. There are a lot of scenarios out there where somebody says, well, I didn't really like him on the first date, but I felt bad. I didn't want to say no to a second date. And then they have the second date. The second date is totally different and wonderful. And they go on to have relationships and marriages even. And that is because sometimes you need to keep in mind that often people will be very nervous on that first date. So you could have that great first date where everybody's laughing and having a great time and it's wonderful. But there's other first dates where somebody might be nervous and it shows and it's coming across as maybe being not interested or distracted or something. So just look at the big picture. Don't look at like, well, he barely talked during dinner or she, doesn't seem interested in me. Could be nerves, could really be nerves. So at the very least, if you're not going to go on the second date or you don't think you're going to go on the second date after the first date, have some more interaction. Doesn't have to be in person, doesn't have to be a date, but maybe have a Zoom, talk on the phone, even exchange text messages. Just something more to see if the demeanor of the other person has changed since the first date. They may be super comfortable in that chat and you decide to go out with them, and then in person, they're all clammed up. That could be nerves. Go back to the other way of communicating, go back to the chat, go back to the phone conversation or something, and see if you revisit that same person you met in the first place. And if you do, realize that was just nerves. Give it another shot. You'll probably see a different persona than on that first date because we all tend to get scared. But again, if you feel that there was a safety issue or there was something where it was a red flag of something in this person's history that you didn't know before you went on the date, and that makes you uncomfortable, then don't do it. But do bear in mind that as much as we put our best foot forward or want to put our best foot forward, sometimes nerves do get the best of us. So a second date could be warranted if you think that might be the case. But at the end of the day, go with your gut.
Yeah, that's always sometimes the best advice is just your gut feeling and whether or not that works. Now, let's say we want to go on a second date, but the other person just isn't quite into us. And how do we handle with rejection while dating?
Well, first of all, the word rejection, so many people just look at it as like it's the most negative thing and it's terrible. Nobody wants it to have happen to them. But rejection isn't always terrible. Rejection often is a clearing of a path for you to move on to what is right for you instead of pursuing something that was never right for you. And people can reject for their own reasons. Do not take it personally. Unless someone flat out comes out to you and says, well, you know what? Somebody say to me, you know what, Patty, I decided I don't like brunettes. Well, that's not going to change. So that's not on me. That's on you. So see where it's coming from. If you are baffled because you thought it was a good date and they're not interested, again, remember, you don't know everything about them. You don't know every aspect of their private life, and you don't know where their thoughts are. Maybe they were one of those people that we talked about in day one, where we said a well-meaning friend or family member kind of pushed them to get out there and date, and they just weren't really ready to date yet. So they're coming back and not pursuing more with you just based on that. A lot of times we don't have a way to know what the reasons are why there is no second date, which is why I tell you, just do not take it to heart and take it personally. And again, going to day two's, I think it was day two's topic, have confidence. Have confidence in yourself. If it didn't work out with this person, that's not your person. It's not your person, and it's not going to be your person, no matter how much you want that second date. It's a two-person dance we do here, so both people have to be on the same page. If one isn't, move on. Just move on. We are not in a population, we're not in Alaska where the male-female ratio is all messed up, or we're not in a population where if you don't date, you'll never date again. These opportunities are going to keep revolving around you and coming. So take those with confidence instead of letting your confidence be questioned because of somebody else's choice.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And that's great stuff. And like you said, I think the main thing to realize is you're not always going to be on the same wavelength as the other person, and they may have a different viewpoint from a different angle that you're just not familiar with. So, it's a situation where you shouldn't really necessarily always beat yourself up.
Absolutely. Don't do it.
In that particular case. So now the dating thing's heating up or whatever. I mean, are there some signs that perhaps someone's rushing into a relationship too quickly? I mean, or maybe it's coming from the person you're dating.
Yeah, it can come from both sides, actually, and it comes from a lot of different sources. Sometimes it will come simply from the fact that someone hasn't had a relationship in a long time and something quasi-good comes along, and they just decide, okay, well, this feels okay. This feels pretty good. Why don't we just see each other more times a week instead of once a week? Why don't we go to 4 times a week? Or why don't I just stay at your house and you stay at my house every weekend? And why don't we do things, and let's plan a trip, and let's do this. And that over enthusiasm sometimes is a huge red flag. A lot of times it's somebody that maybe in their own life a little hungry for that interaction. So it's not necessarily saying, like, let's say, Mike, let's say we're you and me. It's not me saying to you, Mike, I really want to spend time with you. I am really enjoying getting to know who you are. It's saying, I don't want to be alone anymore. I've been alone for so long. Now I've got you. I've got you. I caught you. And I'm going to spend every bit of time with you. And let's do this. Now it's just about feeding their own need to just not be alone. So you don't want to fall into somebody else's, just convenience person. So that is a very, very big thing. Another red flag with that is if it isn't from a loneliness source, really carefully read between the lines and think, is it something that they might want from you? Is this somebody that's getting cozied up to you because there might be a financial reason? Maybe they see some reason to get closer to you because they think there might be an opening there for them to ask to borrow money or to move in with you or something. You don't know what they're not sharing from their own personal life. They may be in a situation where they need a place to live. So you look pretty good on paper, and I think I want to come live with you because I'm about to get, my lease not renewed or some other situation that's going to cause them to need a place to live. So they're laying groundwork for other things that have nothing to do with you, but you're going to be who they're going to use to get what they want. And you don't ever, ever want to be somebody else's convenience or what they need for themselves. It is a 2-person gig here. It is something everybody's got to be fair and equal to everybody else. So if you feel that there's something coming down the pike that's not going to be fair and equal to you because of this over enthusiasm, you have every right to dial it back. Just because somebody wants to spend 4 or 5 days a week with you or spend weekends at your house doesn't mean that you have to do that. You can just say, no, I have a full schedule this doesn't work for me right now. And if they really get angered and just say, fine, you know what, this isn't going to work for me. Well, there might have been an agenda there. If somebody says, I'm sorry, I just really like you so much, I like spending time with you, and I just, maybe I came on a little strong, but I want you to know I will work, we'll go at a pace that's comfortable for you. That's someone showing you some respect and respecting your boundaries. If someone doesn't respect your boundaries and is trying to do too much too soon, again, not your person.
Right. Exactly. And, it goes back to what we talked about previously with regards to it takes two wholes, when you become a half, you need to be kind of an independent person.
But you cannot be half of something great if you are not whole with yourself. So just make sure you are comfortable in your own skin, feel good about who you are, feel confident about the choices that you're making, not let those choices be made for you by an overly enthusiastic person that you've just met that wants to move things along too fast. If it's not your comfort zone, it's not your person.
Right. And you don't want to be in a codependent situation either.
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up, because codependency it's real and it's a thing. And a lot of people find themselves at first becoming enamored with the thought of somebody wanting to spend that kind of time with them and giving them that kind of attention. And it's kind of hard to see that it is a codependent situation where now you're not really a person that they so much can't live without. You're just what they can't live without, which is another person.
Right.
So, yeah, a little more than we can delve into right now and right here. But yes,
I would, a whole other episode in of itself.
Right. And I would encourage somebody, since we've just hit the tip of the iceberg on it, I would encourage somebody to, if they don't understand what a codependent relationship is, read up about it. We have a plethora of resources via the internet, and there's some really good ones out there that will define that. And then that way, when you know what that is, you know what to look for. You can spot your own red flags.
Right, exactly. So, yeah, that's a fantastic day today on the information. This is going to actually wrap up our fourth day of the interview series.
It's going so fast.
Exactly right. I mean, it does. It's so great and it's so easygoing. It's fantastic. So, but we want to invite you to join us tomorrow as we continue our discussion on dating and divorce. Patti and I would like to thank you for joining us today and on the Breaking Ties interview series. Should you have any questions for Patti, I'm going to put her information over in the description so you have a way to reach out to her and ask those questions that might be more personal in nature. Divorce is not the end of your story. As Patti and I know, it is the start of your next great chapter. And we will see you guys tomorrow. Take care. Hello, and welcome back to our fifth and final day of the week-long Breaking Ties interview series, where we talk with a professional who assists those getting through the divorce process, but more specifically this week, it's after the divorce process for most of us and dating. And we're going to go through common questions like we've done all week. And if you haven't been with us all week, I encourage you to go back and check out the other episodes because every day has a new set of questions. I'm your host, Mike Fulkerson, financial advisor and certified divorce financial analyst professional. And with me today is Patti Warsaski. And Patti is a dating coach and the owner of A-Game Dating Coaching for Men and Women. And she's really shared some fantastic information this week. And Patti, I really appreciate that. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Mike.
So as we look at the end of the week here, and we've kind of progressed through the dating scene over the course of the week, and you provided some great tips and tidbits and information for people to use and leverage. It's been fantastic. I want to kind of hit on what are some common mistakes to avoid when dating after divorce in general?
Dating too soon is probably right up there in my top three. Dating too soon. I know everybody wants to move on, and eventually everybody will. But it is something to do at your own pace that you're comfortable with. If you try it and it doesn't work for you, take a break from it. Revisit it when you think you might be in a better either headspace or the timing might be better with other things that you've got going on in your life.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, the too soon thing is definitely very challenging. It's great to go ahead and get back out there, but at the same time, have you really rediscovered yourself? Have you really figured out what you would like from a relationship? And I think you've covered that really well this week on, putting the emphasis on you as an individual.
Yes, absolutely. Dating can be scary. So I don't want to overlook that fact as much as I am a very positive person about people getting back out there. And I love helping them, whether it's with their confidence building or with image consulting or helping them know how to overcome objections or just helping them kind of bring themselves up to speed because maybe the last time they went on a date was 32 years ago. I really enjoy that, but I do think that at every point, or like we talked about online dating too, at every point, there's a little bit of something to learn because we're, as we said before, we're always evolving. We're all works in progress. So pick up a little something as you go along this process, or else it'll be a hard process to go through. If you're closed-minded to new things, it will be very hard to get back into the dating world.
Right, exactly. And so, for our listeners, over the course of the week, I've shared that, Patti, let's go with Patti.
Okay.
Was my dating coach and helped me with reaching my girlfriend of a number of years and actually just being happy in that. And so the service that she provides is actually well thought out and actually forward driven for you. The coaching client kind of thing. But I remember, one of the things that really sticks into my mind back when Amy and I started dating was when I shared an experience I had when we went on our first date, and that was how time seemed to just slow down.
I remember.
And I didn't really have a term for it.
You said you felt like you were in a bubble, like your own bubble, the two of you.
A time bubble.
Yeah.
So, I felt like, we were out for a couple hours, but it felt like 4, 6, 8 hours. It felt like a long time, but not a lot of time has passed.
But it felt like a long time in a good way.
In a great way.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It was just one of those things I had never experienced before. And they happen still off and on.
I love hearing that.
Depending on, where we're at and what we're doing, where time just stretches and you just enjoy every moment. And you're kind of thinking like this thing's going to wrap, like we're running out of time, and you check your clock and you're like, wow, gosh, it's only been like 10 minutes, but it's felt like 2 hours of just quality time that you spent together. And so for me, part of it was learning just some of that compatibility and synergy that you have with the other person.
Right. Because you look for that. And really, coming out of a relationship that culminates in divorce, you're usually a person that has spent the last year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, depending on your situation, where your previous partner, your spouse, you had a different dynamic, than you have with somebody new come into your life, because maybe the dynamic has just broken down in the marriage and that leads it to divorce. So there's not a lot of compliment giving. There's not a lot of praise. There's not a lot of smiling and laughing and enjoying activities together. That kind of has fallen by the wayside. And that's why you're in the divorce situation. So when you meet somebody new, as Mike did with Amy, and I know Amy, and she is an absolute doll, you now are learning to navigate a new dynamic or a new way of existing with another person. Because, like when you met Amy or somebody will meet somebody else, you get into those wonderful time bubbles and like you're in your own little world, and there's no fighting there. There's no, making decisions about kids and futures and college and finances. And it just, there's so much heat off of you, and you can really just focus on who you are and who the other person is. And that is something that I really like to share with people, that shut that part out. Shut that part out when you are meeting somebody new. If Mike cannot shut that part out of his existence in the dating world, if he just kept thinking about whatever it was that created a divorce situation for him, he would have been in that same situation on that same day with Amy, but he wouldn't have been present for that moment. And same with Amy. They were present and they were there for each other, and they were able to just enjoy each other. And that's why I said what I said yesterday about the first date tips. Don't bring your exes on the date. Don't talk about your exes, and certainly not more than necessary. You will not find yourself in that feeling of, I don't know, how would you describe it? Just kind of a almost surreal like happiness.
Right.
If
Yeah.
it's any more than just the two people that are on that date. And you guys are fully able to immerse yourselves in getting to know each other. And that's so key. That's so key. And don't even talk about your people at work that are a pain in the butt. Don't talk about your job that you dislike or projects that you have coming up. Shut that all out. Just give yourselves permission to just enjoy each other. And it becomes a lot easier, too, from coming out of another relationship to learn how to engage with another person on a level that's not the level you engaged in with your spouse. If you had a spouse that always wanted to, be combative, and you're now on a date with somebody that's not combative, don't react defensively. Realize that you don't have to be the person that you were. Mike talks about the new chapter. I like to say, don't build your new house with the bricks from your old house. And it's just a nice existence when you can focus on what's new and what's coming and what to anticipate. These guys sure did, and it worked out wonderfully. I just like to remind people to remember that the dating is for you now. It's not for your past. The dating is for your future.
Yeah. And those are some killer final thoughts right there. I mean, that was really well put together, Patti. And I know I appreciated your services. And if our listeners feel like, Patti's coaching services are for them, you have more personal questions, or you're looking for pointers and tips and things that are very, specific to you, I recommend you don't hesitate. You reach out to Patti, you let her give you a hand. You look at her services and what she offers. There's a whole lot out there, and that information is going to be in the description. So you're able to then reach out to her and make sure, that both you and Patti are a good fit for her coaching services.
Right. And I don't, I, as much as I love to share my experiences and learning, I can't do like a Dear Abby thing with just, back and forth ping ponging questions. But what I could do is, and I do, is sit down, have a consultation, see if we're a really good fit for someone's needs, if I'm a good fit for them as a coach. And then we move on from there. I do have a website that does outline some packages, but I do a lot of custom packages because not everybody might need everything in a bundled deal. So I can certainly listen to what you have to say, listen to your concerns, see what your goals are, and just help you best achieve them by setting something up that will work for you, both time and different services. We can a la carte things and put them together to make something great to get you on your way to.
Absolutely. And with today's technology, I mean, you're just a Zoom meeting away from getting somebody. You don't actually have to be way out there on, in person or anything like that. Just, you don't have to be completely local. So this is actually going to end our week-long interview series with Patti. If you haven't seen the previous days, I really encourage you to go check out the rest of the episodes from this series. I mean, the information was absolutely fantastic. And we're going to sign off for the last time today. Patti and I would like to thank you for joining us all week. We appreciate you, viewers.
Yes.
And this has been the Breaking Ties interview series. And like I said before, if you feel Patti's coaching services are for you, then go ahead and check out her information in the description. She's always happy to work with lots of people. And divorce is not the end of your story. It is the start of your next great chapter. And we'll see you on the next episode of the podcast.
Thank you
Take
so
care.
much, Mike. You're
welcome,
Bye-bye,
Patti.
everyone.
Have a great day.
You too.
We want to thank you for listening to this episode of Breaking Ties, Is Divorce the Answer? With Mike Fulkerson. For questions, please reach out to Mike via email in the description or give him a shout at 630-444-1410. And remember to subscribe, like, and follow.